But what makes this week holy is something else. It is the fact that something happened back then and there, in space and in time. Something so shattering that the grinding wheels of fate were stopped by it, and death is no longer allowed to have the final word.
It's Tuesday of Holy Week, and Tuesday's the day when we remember a pretty curious incident where Jesus apparently curses a fig tree for not bearing fruit in the wrong season. Our reading today says this: early in the morning, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it and found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." And immediately the tree withered. You know, this is a story that should make us a bit uncomfy. But set against the high drama of the triumphal entry, the pointed and shocking symbolism of the cleansing of the temple, even looking forward to the Last Supper and the drama of those final days, then why is this little incident even recorded? Seemingly trivial, why is it given less equal billing with those incredible dramatic events that we'll come on to? You know, what is happening here in this story that can speak to us now? Taken on its own, this story isn't a pretty good look really for Jesus. Superficially, he can look a bit childish. You know, in Mark's Gospel, we have a bit more information on what's going on. In fact, Jesus is not just being mean to a tree, cursing it out of hand, but in fact cursing it for not having fruit in springtime, in the wrong season. You know, it's really important to link this story with the day before. In fact, in Mark's Gospel, the fig tree story is split across 2 days with the temple clearing in the middle. It's a framing for that story. So we need to think about the temple and whether that should have been producing fruit. It should have been the place where justice and worship met, but the reality was very different in Jesus' day. The prophets had issued warning after warning, but no change was coming. The temple system itself was like the fig tree, expected to be bearing fruit, but rotten on the inside. So what's going on here? Is Jesus just hungry, tired and emotional after his early high-profile events? Well, as Tim Keller would put it, the preacher, he's not really dealing with the fig tree. He's dealing with us. You see, trees like these gave their fruit in 2 different ways. There's the final rich harvest that we might be familiar with, rich, plump fruit. But given the timings in the spring and the fact that the tree was in leaf, we should have been seeing something. An early bud of a fig tree would have been used as a roadside snack for travellers in Jesus' time. So Jesus looks on the fig tree, which should have been showing some sign of life, but it isn't. It looks okay from a distance, but in reality, it's diseased. Its root is rotten and it's dying on the inside. And just like the temple, he's come to clean house, to uproot dead religion that can never sustain life. You know, it's springtime here in our little community garden. We've just taken over a veg patch over here. We've spent hours and hours weeding and pulling up old plants, tending the soil ready for planting. Holy Week can be a bit like that for us. We gloriously anticipate the new life that will spring forth, but if we expect a little shot in the arm of our comfy old religious ways, we better think again. Jesus is looking for us to throw away our empty formulaic ways and turn to him as the source of true life. That life is coming. We anticipate that resurrection day when we celebrate. But are we making ready for it? Or are we like the fig tree, dead in our religious ways? Are you ready for a change, and are you ready to bear fruit?
Full of the Spirit, led by it into the wilderness, you stayed for 40 days and 40 nights. How quiet and lonely it must have felt. This has been a year of isolation for many, and I wonder how that compared. When I was younger, I gave up chocolate for Lent. It seemed like the hardest task ever, and inevitably towards the end I'd sneak an Easter egg up into my room, eating it and hiding wrappers through the slits of the bed. As I've grown older, I've learnt Lent goes so far beyond. Giving up such a small thing as chocolate, it felt wrong. It's a time to starve ourselves of something, to get the smallest bit closer to the hunger Jesus felt. Yet again, he was dealt the hardest card, for us. In this recent loneliness, it has been all too easy to fall away from God, and in drawing away from the light, we start falling into darkness. But as daylight increases and spring is on the horizon, we are reminded to keep our eyes on the fact that light is coming. We look forward to celebrating when Jesus conquered death and that he saved us with every last breath. No matter what situation we're in, no matter what is taken away from us, we will always have him, and in him we can always trust. As I walk through this wilderness of sorts, feeling alone, overwhelmed by all I don't know, wondering where after all of this I'll go, I'm brought back to ground, back to the here and now, through meditating on his word. Out in the cold, he wraps me and offers a nurturing kindness. The temptations come and go, but let's remind ourselves, he is the constant. When I think of the wilderness, I imagine beauty, wide open spaces full of untouched streams and lustrous green pastures. Over the edge there's a turquoise sea where waves crash over my feet and I feel truly at peace. But the wilderness can also be a dry open space, fostering isolation. You exist as the only alive thing for as long as you can see. There's no food to eat, no water to be found. Such was the ground Jesus' feet walked. In our green pastures, we give up a tree or two, a sunset or a few. Maybe we give up the miles of beautiful pathways for a while to get closer to how Jesus truly felt in his wild. In the space of what we once loved, we see him and his pain. Each memory triggered, each want or temptation that remains, we think of him and the price he paid. He returned in the power of the Spirit after all he'd fought, a lesson for us all to stay focused and stand firm on what he taught. So focused was he, Jesus, distracted but not successfully, brave enough to answer, courageous enough to refuse, wise enough to view through the lens of truth. Brave, courageous, and wise, we hold on to your truth, knowing that through our wilderness, we have you.